The boulder was heavier than my 14 years, but it moved. Beneath it lay the sandals and the iron sword, cold and waiting like a held breath in the dark. I did not take the coastal path. The sea was safe, and the sea was for those who wanted to live quietly. I chose the road. It was infested with bandits, men who lived by the blade and died by the trick. The first one stepped out from behind a crag, teeth bared, iron raised high. I did not hesitate. I ducked beneath his swing, felt the wind of the blade pass over my shoulder, and drove my own steel into his side. He fell hard, gasping at the dust. I stood over him, blood hot on my knuckles, and realized the truth. Fear was not a wall. Fear was a leash. I cut it then and there, and I did not look back. Every mile toward Athens taught me the same lesson. The world only breaks those who blink first. I kept walking, the iron blade heavy and honest against my hip, ready for whatever the city had waiting for me. Athens did not welcome me. It greeted me with the stench of salt, rot, and unspoken conspiracies. My father, Aegeus, looked through me as if I were a ghost of his past, not his son. Then came the cup. Medea pushed it toward me, her hands steady, her eyes empty. I did not drink. I struck the gold vessel from her fingers. It hit the stone floor with a ringing chime, the dark liquid pooling like a stain on the marble. Before I could demand answers, the city went cold. A black sail climbed the horizon, a jagged shadow against the sun. The tribute was due, 14 lives for the monster in the maze. I walked to the center of the court and knelt before my father. He wept, his hands trembling as he gripped my shoulders. I pulled back, looked him in the eye, and locked my hands in his. "Father, I will return with white sails," I promised. The air felt thin, heavy with the weight of the words. I turned away from the throne and walked toward the docks, joining the other tributes. They stared at their feet, their silence, a wall I could not breach. I left the harbor behind, my eyes fixed on the dark horizon. The stone of Knossos was bleached white, but the air inside the palace felt stale, trapped in centuries of dust. Ariadne waited at the threshold of the maze. Her eyes moved over me, restless, flickering like twin candles in a draft. She did not speak at first. She reached into her palm and pressed a spool of crimson thread into my hand. The wool was rough, stained deep, a vein of red against my skin. "This leads to the center," she whispered, her fingers lingering on my wrist. "Promise me the stars, and you shall have it." I gave my word, the weight of it settling in my chest, and stepped forward. The entrance was a jagged maw in the rock. As I crossed the threshold, the light died. The air became thick, damp with a cold, salt-heavy moisture. I tied the end of the thread to a protruding stone at the entrance and pulled it taut. The walls here were not cold. They were warm, vibrating with a rhythmic pulse that traveled through my boots and up into my spine. I followed the red line into the throat of the dark, the thread, a thin, fragile lifeline, pulled tight against the unknown. The seconds drifted to minutes, and the minutes to hours, the silence growing heavy enough to crush the breath from my lungs. I did not pray. I remembered the bandits I had broken and the strength of my mother, but then the sound, a wet squelch in the darkness, the gruff snort, the ungodly roar that nearly broke my spirit. The fury and frenzied sound of charging hooves left me no time to think. I sidestepped the first charge. The wall groaned under the impact of the beast, but I was already moving, my blade slicing its flank. It spun with a speed that defied its size. I lunged for the second rush, but my heel caught on the uneven floor. I skidded, arms flailing, and braced for the horns to gore me. I caught a horn with both hands instead. My knuckles cracked under the strain, the heat of the beast radiating against my skin. The smell of copper and sweat filled the narrow space. I shoved my boots into the mud, found my footing, and scaled as high as my tired arms would allow me, upward with every ounce of resolve in my body. and as it fell, the beast froze. Its eyes met mine, the certainty now as clear as day that I had somehow bested it. I bound it with chains. His resolve and fury were broken, but it took every ounce of strength left in my body to do it, and for one flicker of time, the animal vanished. A human gaze stared back, hollow and exhausted. The massive frame collapsed like a falling temple, shaking the ground beneath my feet. I stood in the sudden, ringing quiet, the hilt of the sword still vibrating in my grip. I followed the red vein of the thread back, hand over hand, until the gray light of the entrance bled into the dark. Ariadne was waiting. She did not ask. She saw the blood on my hands and reached for me. I took her fingers, but the contact felt distant, as if through a layer of ice. We ran toward the ship, the horizon expanding with every stride. We reached Naxos as the sun dipped low, painting the sand in bruised shades of violet. She fell into a deep sleep by the shore, exhausted by the weight of her own gamble. I sat apart, the crimson thread still coiled in my hand, its fibers digging into my skin like a brand, a permanent scar across my palm. I looked at her, but I did not see the woman who had guided me through the stone throat of the maze. I saw only the winding, suffocating paths I had just escaped. The ship groaned against the tide, its hull straining for the open sea. I needed the wind. I needed the vast, empty air where no strings tied me to the earth. I turned away from her, walked to the shore, and shoved the vessel into the surf. I did not look back when the sails caught the breeze. I left her there in the sand, a sacrifice to the horizon I craved. The voyage home was a blur of salt spray and mounting pride. I stood at the prow, watching the waves carve paths through the deep, convinced that the world already bowed to my name. The task was done. The beast was dead. I had reached the end of my own legend. And in that intoxication, the ritual of the white sails slipped from my mind. The black cloth remained lashed to the mast, a dark shadow against the brilliant noon sky. I did not see it. I saw only the harbor of Athens growing larger, a homecoming I had earned in blood. High above the water, on the jagged edge of the cliff, a figure stood motionless. My father, Aegeus, had kept his vigil for days, eyes fixed on the horizon. The ship cut through the water, the black sails snapping in the wind like a funeral shroud. From the height of the cliff, the colors were absolute. He saw the black. He did not wait for the ship to dock, or for my voice to carry across the surf. He saw the end of his bloodline in the fabric of the sails. He stepped forward, weightless for a heartbeat, and vanished into the churning white foam below. The sea surged, swallowing his fall, leaving only the sound of the wind where a king had stood. The sea swallowed the truth, leaving me with a name that would outlive my victories. The waters that claimed my father now bear mine, the Aegean. I stood on the deck, watching the surface churn, a mirror of my own hollow triumph. Every time a ship crests the horizon, I scan the color of its cloth, hunting for a forgiveness that will never arrive. I killed the Minotaur in the dark, but the victory feels like ash. I look at my hands, at the faint, jagged line of the thread scar, and I understand the nature of the beast. The monster was never the creature in the stone labyrinth. The monster was the boy who walked away, who let his arrogance drift like a black sail, who broke his word, and who left his father to die in the waves. I returned to a city of salt and decay, a king of nothing. I am the survivor of the maze, yet I have never truly left its center. The silence of the sea is louder than the screams of the beast. It is the sound of a promise shattered, a weight that I will carry until the tides finally pull me under, just as they took him. My legend is written in the water, but the ink is blood. I am the monster I sought to destroy.
Don't lurk. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, share a myth in comments. Epic Mythos Unveiled. Thanks every active soul. This is Epic Mythos Unveiled. Thanks for watching.